Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to be filming another video today. It's New Year's Day, so happy 2020 to everyone. I hope you guys all had a safe and awesome New Year, bringing in 2020 last night. It was really nice. I just went to Unity of Phoenix and did the release and renew ceremony, which felt amazing. They had fire pits up, and we got to release what we no longer wanted in 2020. So it was cool. Reverend Richard Mirage was like, now you can't talk about it. Think about it. It's gone. No more. No more with that story. So I woke up feeling very optimistic. 2020 is going to be a year of a lot of change, which can be scary and a lot of work, and it can be emotionally draining. But if we stay in balance and go with the flow, it should all work out. That was the message I got. I posted my 3-card reading from that last night on Instagram, so go check it out under SMMARHT. It's Sarah Smart, so on IG. So you can go see what I wrote. I was originally going to do this video with a different deck of cards. I was going to do this video with one of the moon decks I have, because I have a few and I love the moon. I love the moon. But I was feeling inspired to talk about the Thoth deck and my journey with the Thoth deck and how I got started. So I started out on this journey with the desire to heal. So I started out on this journey to learn Reiki. So I was in my mid-20s, and my Reiki master teacher lived an hour and a half away. So I learned Reiki 1 and 2 from her. That was great. That was fine and dandy. She was an amazing teacher. She taught a lot of classes. Her influence was Doreen Virtue, and so she would have us draw angel cards, and she had this amazing, literally, it was like a compound. She had this huge waterfall that looked like a mountain, and she called it Mount Johannes because that was her last name, and she had like a little separate area from her house where she taught classes and did workshops. She was a hospice worker, so she had a lot of great stories, but she was a very traditional teacher. She learned Usui Reiki she had the whole traditional lineage mapped out. So for Reiki 3, it wasn't just 1 or 2 classes or a month. It was, you had to take all these other classes that she taught, meditation, like death and dying, like how to cope, stuff like that. Like, it was intense. And with me living an hour and a half away and working retail, I was like, how do you expect me to do this? How do you expect me to get to your classes? So, and that's a lot of money. Each class, the gas, the time, and then not to mention Reiki 3, then you apprentice and you have to help teach classes, and it just was looking like, okay, she's not going to be the person I'm going to get to learn Reiki 3 and become a Reiki master with. So I was really bummed out. Anyway, my best friend and I, we go to an autumn carnival in the little town I was living in, and it was like the moon dance or something like that carnival. And anyway, there was a woman doing tarot readings, and my background is was raised Catholic and Protestant, so I'd never had a tarot reading before, and I was just so fascinated, and so was my friend. So we're like, oh wow, and she had a crystal ball, and this woman was just she was an older woman, and she just seemed so like motherly, and she was awesome. So we both got readings, and we found out that she was a Reiki master teacher. So we set up, we're like, hey, this is awesome, because she was looking for a Reiki teacher as well. And so we both were so excited to get to, learn Reiki from this woman. And I mean, especially for me, she was in the same town, and there was no commute. And I mean, I could literally walk to her place. It was amazing. And her space was just as amazing. It was in a town center. It wasn't in the forest like my other Reiki practitioner. It was, she had a little apartment, and she had a flower garden that you could tell that there were, lots of fairy activity. It was amazing. It was beautiful. Her living room wasn't set up like a typical living room. She had gemstones everywhere. So we would, practice Reiki a little bit, but as we progressed, we were meeting like once a week. It became abundantly clear that this woman was not going to teach us Reiki. That she was teaching us her form of, at the time, what I would have called like witchcraft. Now, so she was teaching us about crystals and tarot, and I hadn't signed up for that. And I was still really indoctrinated in the fear of Christianity. I mean, I was still considered myself, I had my disillusionment with the church, with both churches, and anger towards especially the Catholic Church for its treatment of women and minorities and people and cultures, and just wiping out, anyone who didn't agree with them. I never wanted to become a Catholic. In my soul, it never felt right. But this just really scared me. So she was teaching us tarot, and of course the deck that she wanted us to start out with was the Thoth deck. Now, coming from a very Christian background, this deck, I mean, look at this devil. Like, this deck is, to a Christian, very scary, very dark. It elicited a lot of fear from me. So it soon became apparent that this teacher had casted an enchantment on my friend and I, and she was actually trying to extort money from both of us. Well, I got really upset and hip to it, and plus, I mean, I just wasn't appreciating her lack of truthfulness with the classes. So, I was already rebelling. Anyway, long story short, what happened was, at that night at that festival, she had cast an enchantment on us, and it felt like bubbles. So whenever we were around her, it felt like warmth and happiness and bubbles. And I was going to a spiritualist church at the time. I got a message from one of the spiritualists there, who told me, to watch out for snakes and people talking about you behind your back. Well, this teacher, I'm trying not to say her name, she started whispering in my best friend's ear and saying all these horrible things about me, because she knew that I was pulling away, that the enchantment spell wasn't really working. I had met another Reiki master who was extremely powerful, and he was a male, and his tools that he used, he had a crystal that was, that he used, and he actually let me touch it. It was so energized that it almost burnt me. I almost couldn't touch it. That's how high vibration it was. Anyway, he was very spiritually advanced, and he ended up attuning me to Reiki 3. And there was no pretense. There was no ego. There was no, you have to learn this and that and blah, 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 blah. He just did it. And he also gave me a little heads up about what the bubbles meant. So I had my best friend, she basically turned on me, and I stopped going to the classes. I was like furious. I was livid. I burned my Thoth deck. I burned that deck. I was like, this is evil. I don't want it in my possession. I don't like it. But I loved angel cards, and I loved the oracle, and the idea of tarot had been planted. So I went to a local metaphysical shop and bought a deck that spoke to me, and that was the Animals Divine. And that deck was so beautiful, and I love animals. I love animals. So that deck was just so perfect for me, and so I continued mainly doing 3-card spreads for myself and just doing readings and writing everything down. Now fast forward to present day, I got this like pull to buy the Thoth deck. I collect decks now, and so I went out and repurchased the Thoth deck, and now it's my favorite deck to use. I don't find it scary anymore, especially with the knowledge that I have. I learned a lot, and about imagery and symbolism and quote unquote witchcraft, and my views are very different now than back then. It's really scary to throw someone who was taught a certain belief into, like, just throwing them in, especially when it wasn't by their choice. Like, I didn't seek her out to learn the tarot. I didn't seek her out to read Dion Fortune's books, or to learn about Aleister Crowley. That was not my intention at all. I was like, hey, look, lady, I was just trying to learn Reiki. But she had given us a copy of this most amazing book. I got rid of that copy. I got rid of most things that she gifted to us. Didn't want that energy around me anymore. But this book is the best. I repurchased this as well. It's brand new. The other copy, you should have seen it. It was so worn. It was like falling apart. But I love this book. I think it's amazing. And it's by Akron and Hajo, Banzhaf. I don't know if you can see that. So, and I love that book. And then now I found this other book. It's called The Ultimate Guide to the Thoth Tarot. And it's by Johannes, Fiebig, and Evelin Burgers. I don't know. But I really enjoy this book too. It's just really simple and straightforward, and talks about each card. It gives you layouts, and it's just an absolutely beautiful, beautiful book. And even if I'm using a different deck than the Thoth deck, I still use those books as references because they're so rich. They give such amazing meaning. So it's just really important that when you're starting to look for teachers, that right away you look for warning signs. Make sure that they're teaching you what you signed up for. Make sure they're not trying to get money out of you, for things that, services that aren't rendered. My friend bought this woman, she ended up buying her like a laptop, and I don't even know what else she got out of my friend because I stopped talking to her for like a year. Later she apologized. Luckily, her boyfriend was, in her ear instead of me trying to be like, look, this woman is not, who she says she is. You need to be careful. And then finally, she woke up to this and realized like, hey, something's not right here. Because there are a lot of fakes and phonies. Now, this woman was not a fake or a phony. She was definitely the real deal, and I learned a lot from her. And I learned a lot of metaphysical things. I learned about the metaphysical properties of gems and crystals. I learned some great meditation techniques, grounding, shielding, like all the basics. She taught us that, and like now that I would maybe be more interested in having someone like that. There's nothing like that where I live now, but just look out, make sure that people are honest with you, that they're not trying to get you to buy them things or move them from one location to another. I think she was trying to get my friend to like move her to Hawaii or something. I don't know. It was just this crazy bad situation. And it could happen to anyone. So look out for the signs. And if you feel like bubbles and warmth and like just effervescence, yeah, that's an enchantment. I've only felt it like a couple of other times. I felt it like once in DC. There's a lot of magic in DC. It's everywhere. And then also one time I was on the back of a motorcycle riding down the street, and like we passed this restaurant, and it was around the restaurant someone was casting an enchantment, and I felt it, and I almost like allowed myself to get sucked into it, and I realized like snapped out of it and was like, wait a minute, nope, that's what this is. And it's interesting because as a Christian, you're taught not to like learn these things. You're taught to be afraid of the spiritual world. You're taught to fear all of it. You're taught to basically leave yourself vulnerable. And I had a lot of spiritual and strange happenings and things that happened to me growing up that I couldn't explain, but it left me open. It left me vulnerable, that fear, because you're not supposed to question. You don't have the power to protect yourself. I know people say, oh, well, they believe that all you have to do is pray. Okay, yeah, maybe for some people, but there's a lot of other things that work that most people don't know about. And knowledge really is power. And if you know how spells work or how things work, it's better to be able to break a spell. And yeah, you don't need to pay anyone like big bucks to break a spell. So anyway, that's another no, don't ever pay anyone. Or if someone walks up to you and says, hey, you have a curse on you. Yeah, they put it on you. So definitely just say thanks, but no, and walk away. And we have the power to break curses. We have the power to break spells. We have the power to protect ourselves. And knowledge is one of the first ways to do that. Anyway, I'm not going to do a reading because, like I said, I already did a reading on my Instagram, so go check it out. Sarah Smart. And then I hope you all have a wonderful, amazing 2020, and hopefully I see you again soon. Bye, guys.